of late there has been a very crazy, tendency to talk about the best practices in HR or in any discipline for that matter. But let me tell you that what is best practices for some organizations or what works for a particular organizations or a large organizations or multinational corporations may not work in a reasonably located small or medium enterprise. You cannot be replicated. Best practices in HR is, as they say, but I think human resource, as a resource, it has been recognized in the recent times during last 2 decades. And this has been agitating, the entire business fraternity that the human resources, the key driver. It drives the entire organizations towards transformation, growth, and success and excellence. So I think that is what HR. This is a small introduction. I thought I'll give a backdrop as to how we should proceed further. So I request at the outset. I request Mr. Biswal, who is from finance department, because this is a platform where we have in the previous session we talked a lot about the creating the next generation of business leaders, and particularly in the state thrive, prosper, and grow. So in fact, finance minister, in fact, he has set the tone for the entire workshop. So I request Mr. Biswal also to share his thought on the HR best HR practices.
The session and the members, friends. When Dr. Das invited me to speak on this occasion, I categorically told him that this may not be my cup of tea, in the sense that I'm a public servant serving in the state for last 25 years, more than 25 years. And I have been looking after taxation, and now I am also the budget officer of the state. So my scope of work is quite different from what we perceive to be discussed in this session. However, I would like to share some of my experience while working in the field and how entrepreneurship grow. And for that, as many of the speakers today, they have highlighted that no degree from a business school is required. But fact means that the state, as I'm a part of the state government, I must say that the state has the responsibility to foster entrepreneurship through its policies and policy interventions. And I think the state government is in the right direction in promoting. What business would you like to start? He said, you see, now I am just preparing some Ayurvedic medicines and I am selling it in the bus stand. I don't have a fixed place of business. I'm just taking it to the bus stand and selling it myself. Now I want to start a business of producing it in bulk quantity. Then I asked him, where would you get the finance? Then he said that there is a piece of land in the name of my wife, and now I have approached the bank, State Bank, and they have now volunteered to finance now. He is in the job getting around 14,000 or 15,000 like that. So basically, what I mean to say that entrepreneurship is a vision, a commitment, a perseverance, and for that, Mr. Dr. Das, his organization, UCCI, for inviting me to share my feelings with. Thank you.
Also, situation in our state, and we'll move on to Mr. Ashok Mahapatra, and who has a very rich experience in India as well as in US, and he's an entrepreneur in his own right, and he has been exposed to cross-cultural setting. I request Mr. Mahapatra to share his thought on best HR practices.
I and the organizing committee of Orissa Economic Forum to organize such a very informative as well as timely session. And my introduction is bloated up. I'm not really an entrepreneur, aspiring to be one. Of course, that's what I think we should all be talking about. I have experience in US. The thought I can present to you is from experience what we should not do in HR best practices. Because we have a list of best practices. We all talk about it. But my experience in India has been that with a great intent, we start to implement a great HR management system in a company. System policies are not taking off in organizations. This is not just by reading books or theory. This is by talking to many different colleagues and friends and also doing a little bit of academic research for small organizations, relatively small to medium scale organizations. Can we get the slides up? When I think about what are the common errors that we tend to ignore in implementing a good HR management system in an organization, starts with number one. Rule number one I found is that do not experiment with HRM in your organization. We tend to believe that HR management policies and procedures can be experimented within an organization by thinking this may work, that may work from my own experience, our own culture, whatever it is. Always believe that the HR policies that you're trying to implement in your organization, the impacted people are your best assets. You cannot make your best assets a scapegoat of experimentation. Rule number one. That's what I find, that many organizations have a great intent of a great HR policy, great HR management system, but tend to ignore this basic fact. Okay, we can keep on going. Just keep on going. All right. Now, that's one thing I'll suggest. Have some experts. Do change your HR system with minor experimentation, gradually having your whimsical experimentation. Rule number one. Rule number two that I find is that being a boss, being an entrepreneur or otherwise, do not drive the HR bus. Being a boss, don't drive the HR bus. Be the leader. Have the vision. Drive the vision. Facilitate the best HR policy is based on your experience, number of years you serve in the organization. Obviously, the performance-based culture is not developed, right? Those are the things that are hurting them. Unionization is well accepted in Japan, but the unionization is within the organization. Organization has a union. Every organization talks, oh, speed is life. Oh, you're going there fast, man, speed is life. It becomes a corporate lingo. That's a culture. In Target, we don't call a customer. We call a customer a guest. It is throughout the organization that how our guests are treated. Give them a great experience when they come to the retail store. So every organization must try to find what is their organizational culture. If you have a culture, great. There are some of the things I have put in on the slide that the business leaders,
rich experience about the common errors and fallacies which we encounter in HR management. And I think again, considering the time constraints, we move on to Ujjwal Chatterjee from Tata Sponge. I think Tata's companies are known for its very the best HR practices, and they have a great HR philosophy, and they have been pioneer in setting up very new trends in HR practices. So over to Ujjwal Chatterjee.
Knowing fully well that a hungry man is an angry man, so I cannot afford to linger on the issue. I'll straight away get to the point. As a background, I am a mechanical engineer by training, and right now working as a project head, developing a greenfield project for Tata Sponge in Angol district. And I am living in this place for the last almost 6 to 7 years, although I have deep roots to the state itself. Prior to that, I have spent almost more than 2 decades with Tata Steel, working in most of their mines and collieries, and as well as some of the farm. So that's the background. So being associated with large industries, so I will have to dwell upon a little bit of some of the ways and means of HR practices. With due apology to Mr. Gupta, I will try to avoid as less as jargons as possible. So I will flip through some of the slides, and before that I go to the slides. I am working for a number of years for a large industry, and when I came to a smaller industry, the perception and the HR values itself made me learn a lot of things. Like in a large industry, I have a lot of parking space. So you can park people where non-performers and performers you can choose. But in a small industry, it has to be crisp and objective. And you have got very less space to accommodate trade-offs. So you have to be very, very serious and objective in your whole industry. So with that, I just flip through the slides. Some of the main practices, managing people and impacts, need for good HR policies and challenges, philosophies, HR practices. Again, the HR practices all revolve around the business strategy, and of course the HR strategy comes from the business strategy and your business values, your industrial values, industrial objectives, which leads you to finally financial results. So all these tantrums and drum beating finally leads to financial results. Nobody can deny it, but obviously that's not the end thing. But that's also one of the major objectives, which keep on evolving and making grow. Second thing, no individual can aspire to grow unless and until the business grows. So both has to grow together. If somebody thinks that he will rise from a lowest point to the highest level and the business remains there, then he must be staying in his own paradise. So the whole finally objective has to be that the business. So business objectives being the ethics, the values and the goals and objectives are one of the most important. So from taking a clue from that is again 3 things where the HR practice, the employee, the job. Just now a previous speaker spoke about the reporting boss, so the job, the workplace and the company. So these 3 are the relationships. I think these 3 relationships are very, very close with it, and since human beings are involved, a lot of subjectivities are involved, a lot of emotional attachments are involved, the sense of belongingness is there. I have also worked for an organization for a very short span of time, which is a Fortune 500 company, where every day 20 people walk in and 20 people walk out. But they are very professional and they are making money like anything. But the difference is that they work for it, that's all. So the relationship ends there. In India at least, we know that we are emotional people. For that we sometimes depend also. But whatsoever it is, that's a trait we have, and that comes from our home, and you cannot leave it before the office, so it comes to the office also. So the emotional attachment also plays a major role, and we cannot ignore that. So again, the need for HR, high performance, formulation of vision. Vision again is what I said is that unless and until you have vision, you have created a vision. If you can co-create it along with your own people as to where you want to reach. Like the President of the US in early 60s made a statement that by the end of the decade, the man from US will be the moon. That's a vision statement. So that's where the country would like to look at or see that a person from US will be the moon. And if you have a vision statement like that or vision, so I am sure everybody can work together to finally reach the objective. Without a vision, it will be all dreams and wishful thinking. So similarly, formulation of vision, developing positive psychologies or psychological contract, as I was saying, or emotional attachment to the organization, formulation of implementation of policies, provision of support and advice to line managers. Again, HR becomes a very, very supportive role. HR just cannot be, fill in the forms, take a feedback, and that's it. Otherwise, then computers would have generated